This is the AX6 Bushcraft Hatchet from the company BeaverCraft, and spoiler alert, I really liked it. And if you want to find out why, keep watching. Before we get started, I do want to thank BeaverCraft for sending out the AX6 Bushcraft Hatchet so I can share it with you. So this is the third hatchet axe that BeaverCraft has sent me. I have the larger AX4 and I have the smaller crafting hatchet known as the AX1. In fact, I brought the AX1 out with me so I could do some comparisons with it. So what I thought I would do, rather than spend a whole lot of time going through all the specifications, is go through some of the key features for this hatchet, but I want to do a few demonstrations and tell you what I really like about using it. All right, let me show you what came with the hatchet and then we'll get into looking at it a little bit more closely. Of course, it does come with a mask, simple little mask with dome snap that works, right? It's a nice little mask, good to have for sure. And it does come with a little belt frog for you to put it in. Honestly, I don't carry it like that. I usually carry it either in my backpack or in my haversack, depending on what I'm doing that day. But it is nice to have it that way if you're actually collecting wood up and you have this on your hip and now you need your hands free. Well, there you go. You can put it in the frog on your belt and you're good to go. All right, so just like I mentioned, I will put all the specifications for it, but I wanted to hit some of the highlights, the things that you're probably most interested in. So to start with, it is a 22.2 ounce head on this. So, you know, for a 12-inch, well, not quite 12 inch, I think it's 11.8 inches in length. For roughly a 12-inch hatchet, 22 ounces, that seems to be about the right weight for this. It is made from the 1066 high carbon steel that BeaverCraft uses for pretty much all of their tools, except for they have a few that are in stainless steel. And it is hand forged in Ukraine. And it does come with a 10-year warranty. And although I really doubt that you're going to have any problems with this for your lifetime, this is a quality made hatchet. So just looking it over, I wanted to show you a few features and what I like about it. Now, this is referred to as a bushcraft hatchet, not a carving hatchet, but I'll be honest, this is my preferred small hatchet for doing light carving with, and I'll be demonstrating that in a few minutes time. 5.5-inch bit. Look at that. Look how long that beard is. Very Viking-like, you know, the Norse kind of a style that seems to be very popular these days. But in this case, it actually is not just for show. It has a lot of good reasons for it being like that. And Ashwood handle and good grain orientation. I mean, it is a hatchet. You don't have to have perfect grain orientation, but just the same. I don't know. Let's see if it does show up on this. Is the grain orientation showing up there? I won't know until I get into editing. I don't think it gets much better than that. So very impressive little hatchet for sure. Now, there's a few things about it that I think could be improved, and I think honestly BeaverCraft left that to the user to decide what they wanted to do about this. I want you to look how thick the bit is. So it does come out quite thick, and then there's a sudden transition in the convex towards the edge. I think that could probably be brought back, you know, maybe even double what it is now, so that you come out a little thinner towards the edge. If you're doing carving and crafting type of a task with it, it makes sense to have this thinned out. Now, if all you're doing is splitting wood, then you're probably not going to see the benefit. Well, you will see the benefit, but it won't be necessary to do that. But to get the most out of this for crafting, I can see I'm probably, after this review, going to bring that back just to a little bit of a more shallow angle out towards the edge. Now, somebody will say, well, yes, that makes it a little bit more fragile. True, but this is not a felling axe. I'm not too worried about the impact that this one will take, and it's 1066 high carbon steel and 55 to 58. That's a good Rockwell rating for an axe like this. The reason I want to bring it back, well, you'll see when I go to do some feather sticking or at least some carving where I'm trying to slice off material, is that it's a little thick for that reason. It won't quite replace a knife in that use. However, having said that, here's one of the things that I have done with it. I won't be doing it today, but because of the long bit and I can get so high up under it, it's almost like using an ulu for cutting up produce and meat and things like that. It actually is a hatchet that you could use quite effectively for meal prep. Clean it off, of course. Quite effectively for meal prep while you're out here in the woods. So it gets close to being a much more versatile tool than just splitting wood with. But that's what we're going to do in a few moments' time, is I'm going to split a little bit of wood as if I was making a fire. We can't, it's a fire ban today, so you'll have to just go with me on that one. But I can do maybe a little bit of feathering with it. Like I said, I'll do some splitting, and I do want to do a little bit of crafting with it as well to show you what I might do if I was looking to make a eating implement. I think today probably a spatula. I mean, I'll finish it, but at least I'll get it started with this. Now, before we do that though, I want to bring in the AX1 so you can see some comparisons. So give me a minute to do that. So this is the AX1. It's the first, I think, hatchet that I reviewed from BeaverCraft, and you know, it's a quality little hatchet. They refer to this one as a crafting hatchet. It has a more traditional Scandinavian look with the ears and the way the bit is shaped and even the beard is shaped. It's more of a traditional look. In fact, it's almost identical to my Wetterling's wildlife hatchet as far as that goes. Thicker through the bit here. Now this actually suffers some of the same issues as far as bit thickness does that the AX6 does. I haven't yet taken this one back, and I'll explain why in a minute. So if you are looking for a crafting hatchet, the small AX1 will certainly fill the bill. Again, you may want to thin the bit out a little bit. But when I did the review, I had one con for this hatchet that, you know, I still haven't quite overcome, and that is the handle. I really did not like this handle. It's very, very straight, and straight is not bad on any axe or hatchet, but it didn't have much of a foot end on it. In fact, it's bigger now than it was. The end back here is bigger now than it was when I did the review, because I actually did take a file and tried to create something of a place for my hand to stop when I'm using the hatchet, because it was just straight. It was just straight out. Now, I know people who do crafting say, yeah, but you don't hold it all the way back there when you're crafting. At least most people don't. I don't, I know. I tend to hold it a little bit more forward so that I can use its weight, and, you know, depending on the weight, how light or how heavy it is, a little bit more control if you take it forward like that, so you don't have to hold it all the way back. But if you want this to double up as something you can use for splitting for firewood, then you're going to want to take it further back, your hand grip that is, and that's where I found that the haft on this just lacked a little bit. So this is the only downside to this hatchet in my mind, was the fact that it just didn't have a great handle. Now, here's an interesting thing that I've noticed on BeaverCraft's website, is that if you want, you can buy just this head, or you can buy just this head. Actually, all the axe heads are sold separately from handles if you want to put your own handle on it. And the other thing that, of course, they sell is replacement handles or hafts for their hatchets and asks. So, meaning, if you really, really want this crafting axe or this crafting hatchet, but you like the handle on it, I'll come back to the handle. I don't think I showed you much about that. If you really like to want that, buy them one of each. Buy the crafting handle, normally going on the AX6, buy the head of the AX1, and put them together yourself. The eye size is pretty much identical for the two of them, so you won't have a problem there. I think this will work out. I'm looking at them now, and the eye size, there is a slight difference, but I'm thinking, yeah, the more I look at it, I'm pretty sure the eye size is pretty much identical between the two of them. It does get some variations. I mean, these are hand-forged heads, so the eye size can vary a little bit. I know there's a drift that goes through that gives it its eye size, but they can still vary a slight bit on them. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. So those are the two hatchets. Now, I mentioned the other thing about this hatchet that I like is at the end of this. This actually feels so much better in the hand. I have so much more control, so I can do real bushcraft tasks, plus I can do some carving tasks, and that's what we're going to do now. All right, I have a couple splits of dead maple here. This one is, well, just about the same size, 12 inches in length, but 1 3/4 inches, maybe, 2 inches on that end for sure. Let's see what we can do as far as splitting this down, as if we're going to make some firewood out of it. It is a short hatchet, right? So you do have to take that into consideration. All right, not quite ready for the split, but I think we can finish this off pretty quickly here. There we go. Ooh, it's old, but it's still good. All right, split it down once or twice more. I'm going to see if I can get a piece that I can do a little bit of feathering with. I know it's not a great feathering stick, but we'll give it a shot anyway. All right, now, yeah, all right, so I just wanted to show you that you can feather with this. This is not the best wood in the world. You can feather with this, but I think it'll do a lot better once I get that edge taken back, the angle of it, because it is quite a kind of a steep angle. It's hard to get the right angle when you're doing this. But as you can see, I'm getting a few little curls that I can then use to strike with a ferro rod, maybe get lit up. Now the other way of doing it, of course, is to plant this into a piece of wood and draw the piece of wood backwards. Might be a little easier, but still, there's quite a bit of an angle there for doing that with. All right, now, you know what? Yeah, okay, now we're going to go right to splitting the piece of wood that I'm going to choose to see if I can make a spatula out of, so give me a chance to do that. Sometimes I have to question my judgment on what pieces of wood I use. This is a piece of, oh man, that's got some weight. It is, once again, all right, this goes 13 and a half inches. It is a full 2.5 to 3 inches in diameter, and it is only really quite newly dead. It is a solid piece of wood, in fact. This might prove to be a little bit of a challenge, so where am I going to split this at? Yeah, that'll work. I think that'll give me the width that I want and everything else. So another way of splitting wood, of course, especially with a small tool like this, is batoning. You can baton your hatchet. I mean, people think of batoning their knives. Why wouldn't you baton a hatchet? This is kind of what it is built for. I think I want to bring that back a tiny bit there. See how this goes. Ooh, that is hard, hard wood. Let's try the other end. I may have to start it another way. Maybe I'll stand up. Now, thing here about safety. I've had it happen to me before when the axe swung through the splitting piece of wood, so make sure you have a clear path of travel for it. I think my block is bouncing. That's better. And through, just like that. Let's take a look and see what I got. Yeah, I've got some wet wood. But I think I can probably at least start doing some crafting with this to see if I can't make a spatula out of it. All right, let's take this piece. The top has a knot, which may have been contributing to why it wasn't doing well that way. So just kind of yeah, it's nice. Nice thing about that broad bit is I'm crossing, as you can see, it goes right across the whole piece of wood at the same time. So when I slice down through, I don't have to worry about doing multiple pieces on the same side of piece of wood or multiple series of cuts. All right, maybe a little thinner. All right, let's see. Yep, that's pretty much where I want that side. Now, I'm not going to use this whole thing, obviously. I'm going to cut it off, but I can start by keeping my hands out of the way, of course. Probably should have taken that knot off before I kept going. Yeah, we're getting a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my saw, take that knot off, bring this down to the length I want, because I want to bring those two angles together on the back. And then I have to get in here and create shallow, like what I call a V-jack, or a crank is what it's often called in a spoon. So I'm going to get my saw into work here, and then I'll come back and finish off with the hatchet. All right, so all I did is put a stop cut in the top and took the end off where the knot was up here where my thumb is, just to kind of get it out of the way. So clearly it's been a while since I've done any implement carving, spoon, hatchet, or spoon, or in this case spatula or anything else. Just going to clean that side up a little bit. You know, you can, if you're skilled and you're patient, you can use your hatchet axe for just about everything in making an implement, depending on how finished or how rough you want it. I've got a knife that will do a much better job than this hatchet will, so I'll probably finish off with that. But I have to see about getting that. Well, first off, I better get the top crank back a little bit further. Or the bottom, I should say. All right. Yep, I like that. And that's in the right place. Now, right, so you can see the shape of it forming what they call the check mark or the crank. Now the inside of that is where things get a little bit challenging, and I know I'm out of practice. So to do this safely, I'm going to try to work down to that stop cut very slowly and very patiently so I don't split right through. All right, you know, I didn't want this to turn into a tutorial of carving a spatula, so what I think I'll do is I'll take it a little further off camera. I'll come back and maybe this won't be finished, but it'll be further along, and then I'll give you my closing thoughts on using the AX6. All right, that's how far I got with the hatchet alone. You know, it's barely functional, but it's got the basic crank, as you can see. Needs a lot more work before it becomes functional. I'm certainly not satisfied with it, but at this point, this is probably where I'd switch over to use a Sloyd knife or whatever bushcraft knife I have on hand. It would work as is, but like I said, it's a long ways from being a finished product. But you know, I'll be honest, I was hacking away at this thing with the hatchet. I almost forgot to turn the camera back on because it's therapeutic to be able to turn a piece of wood into some implement that you need while you're out here in the woods. Well, that's the very art and heart of bushcraft itself. So yeah, it's actually quite an enjoyable process, and having a good little tool like this AX6 to do that work, it just makes it all that much more fun. Now, I will say this, there's a reason why BeaverCraft calls this a bushcraft hatchet, and that's because it's capable not only crafting, but also wood processing for fires. The thing is, it's small, right? It's not a 20-inch, pound and 3/4 head hatchet, axe, whatever you want to call it, at that length. It's a small, less than 1.5 pounds, 12-inch handle on it. So it's a bit of a compromise, but you're more likely going to carry this than the bigger one, unless of course you've got some conveyance. Then of course the bigger one makes more sense. But if you're backpacking like I do most of the time, a smaller hatchet like this seems to make a lot more sense if you want to carry one with you. Okay, that's everything I wanted. Oh, there is one more thing I wanted to mention. I wanted to come back and show you this again. After having said this, I kind of reconsidered my point. I'm not sure that you could use the handle from one hatchet and put it on the other. As you can see, the AX6, this one, has a smaller eye than the AX1, which is this one. You know, I may give this a try myself, buy the handle for the AX6, see if I can put it on the AX1. If it looks like it's something that'll work, well then maybe I'll make a video out of it. Otherwise, I can't confirm that it will work. If you try to do so, you do so at your own expense. We'll put it that way. All right, if you have any comments or questions about the BeaverCraft AX6 Bushcraft Hatchet, put it in the comment section below. I'll put the specifications and the links to where you can take another look at this in the video description. But until next time, get out and explore, take that path, let's travel, because it will make all the difference. Bye for now.